playing Saquon Barkley and, by proxy, the rest of the NFL, the rest of the Eagles' offensive starters. See, I've got the NFL on my mind because we're doing some NFL topics today. It doesn't seem to make sense to risk injury for your big-time players when you don't need the game. So with that in mind, we've turned the conversation to a couple of bigger overarching topics. The first one being, have you seen enough from the Philadelphia Eagles starters? This is very possibly a time where we have already seen them finish the regular season out. Like, it's more likely than not, I would say, that they don't play Sunday. And you've seen the last regular season game from the starters. Have you seen enough? And when you have your questions about the Eagles, do every other NFC playoff team's questions outweigh those of the Philadelphia Eagles? So we're going to knock back a couple more playoff teams in this segment. We've also had a conversation about putting together the rankings of NFL teams as far as the future is concerned. Like, who is in the worst spot going forward, best spot going forward, and who are the teams that fill in the gaps in between them? We already have on that list the Giants in the division as the worst team positioned for the future. The Las Vegas Raiders, 31st, and the Titans, 30th. So we'll knock back a couple more of those. But I'm very interested in your opinion on this one, Andrew.
Sure.
This is a hypothetical situation that I don't think is crazy to consider could happen. Earlier this year, the offensive line, or a couple of the offensive linemen, the big names, Mailata and Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson, go into Nick Sirianni's office, and they talk about, we need to run the football, we need to do this offensively, we need to get Saquon going. This is what needs to change with the offense for us to work this out. That was the bye week. All they did following that is go on a 10-game win streak and cement themselves as one of the best teams in the NFL. So the precedent has been set for the Philadelphia Eagles offensive leaders going to talk to the head coach about what they want to see happen. Now, it's still on Nick Sirianni to listen to them, and he gets credit for doing that earlier in the season. But let's say this happens. Let's say Nick Sirianni gets into his office today, and he's got an appointment, an Outlook calendar invite pops up from offensive linemen. And they walk in the room, and they say, we want to play Sunday. We want to be on that field. We want Saquon to get that record. Let us go after it. This is not, hey, we'd prefer. This is, we want to play on Sunday. And if you're Nick Sirianni, you're probably already thinking, it's not in my best interest to do that. How hard is it for him to handle that conversation, considering he's a player's first coach? He's a guy that guys love to play for, and he wants to try and listen to his leaders and give them what they want. Like, how easy would it be for him to say no, or how difficult would it be for him to say no to that? I think it would be, for a guy like Nick Sirianni, the personality he has, I think that'd be an extremely difficult conversation to tell his players something they definitively want to do to help the team positively, at least from the esteem of like getting the all-time rushing record, to tell them, no, I can't let you do what you want to do. Is it going to be a difficult decision if that's a conversation that happens?
I don't think so. And to be clear, I do think it would take all of the offensive linemen for Nick Sirianni to really even consider it, because based on what I was able to glean post-game, it didn't seem to me that Lane Johnson was all that, I'm okay with sitting down. He goes, at 34 years old, he goes, a bye week is huge. But, I'll play along with this. So I think that it would be something that he would just say, guys, you got to trust me on this. That we have a larger goal in mind, and in order for us to make sure that we meet those goals, or at least are on that course, you got to trust me. It's much bigger than this. Saquon's had 2,000 rushing yards. He's one of 9 players in the NFL who has accomplished that. Our goal is to reach a Super Bowl, and we got to make sure that we preserve you guys. Cam's played over 1,000 snaps this year. Mekhi Becton and Landon Dickerson have both been banged up at times throughout the season. Jordan Mailata has been on injured reserve, and Lane Johnson always is fighting through something. Just trust me on that. Take the week off, rest up, and let's take it to the Green Bay Packers. I think that will be the message. Will he receive some pushback? Probably, but I think they're ultimately going to understand where he's coming from once they take a few minutes to process it, and they know that they have much more bigger things at hand.
See, when we have a conversation like this, where to me personally, when I think about resting or playing the starters on Sunday, it is so blatantly obvious that playing the starters would be the dumb thing. Like, there is clearly, and this is rare in sports talk radio because everything is debatable, but there is clearly a right and a wrong answer to me in this conversation. So one of the tests I like to run on people who find themselves in the other camp is to push this to like the furthest possible edge of the conversation and see if it still holds water, their side of the argument. So I don't think that we've got like a Rudy type situation where every offensive starter goes in, lays their jersey down on Nick Sirianni's desk and says, I need Saquon to get the record. Like
they didn't even do that in Rudy. That was just completely manufactured for the movie.
Yeah, right. It's just Hollywood stuff. I don't think that type of situation is going to happen. But even if it did, you're hearing Andrew Pacheco, who is in the locker room, who talks to these players, who understands what the feel of the team is, the vibe, to use that word that has become so overused even by me. But how these players feel and how the coach-player dynamic is. And even if the players came in and demanded it, you're still telling me Nick Sirianni would probably say no.
Yeah, because it's not an easy decision, to be clear. That's why we're having this conversation. But when you preach all season, we're playing for something bigger, we know what the mission is, well, then you have to stay the course. Saquon accomplished something that, like I said, he's one of 9 players who have done that. That's an incredible feat in and of itself. I think it would be short-sighted to go after the rushing title when you have a number of players who have been nicked up at various points. The offensive line is the key to the offensive success in the postseason. So I think that you need to make sure that they're as rested as possible. They also haven't had a bye week since week 5. That's 12 weeks. I think it would be best practice, and putting my coaching hat on, I have to think that that's the way that they're going to lean, bypass the record in search of something that will also be forever in a Super Bowl championship. Yeah,
the whole thing that I come back to when I think about the coach and player dynamic is I think about parent-child, and that's not fair to the players. Like, it's not that big of a gap between the ability to have the conversation, but it's the most universal example that I could think of that talks about what Nick Sirianni's responsibilities are. So if your kid wants ice cream for breakfast, you're going to have to tell them no, even if they're adamant that they want ice cream for breakfast.
It's going to be waffles today.
Exactly. You have your waffles. That's still a pretty good deal. I'd take that deal. But we know that the fallout from telling somebody no when they're adamant about something could be an adverse reaction, which for a child could be throwing a fit. And I don't think any Eagles players are throwing a fit. But just to put people at ease, if this does happen and they are adamant they want to play and Nick Sirianni says no, he says, guys, listen, man, it's my job as the head coach to make decisions in the best interest of the team going forward. We're playing for something bigger. I got to sit you guys down this week. Get ready for the Packers. Take that frustration out on them. Do you expect any type of ill will, fallout, issue with the head coach, locker room problems? Like, is there anything negative from a locker room perspective that could come from Nick Sirianni saying, yeah, guys, I know you want to play, but I'm not letting you?
Not at all. Not on this team. I think Nick Sirianni has built up enough equity, Connor, that there wouldn't be any sort of pushback or, harbored resentment for that decision. I just believe that this team, they're wired to really go with whatever Nick Sirianni opts to do. Nick Sirianni is receptive to feedback, but he's the head coach at the end of the day, and whatever he says goes, and everyone's well aware of that. And they'll move forward from it. I mean, it's something that they would all like to accomplish as an offense, but it also takes every single player on that offense to agree to do it. A.J. Brown also seemed after the game. He expressed, if you read between the lines, that he would have been totally fine with resting. Remember, he popped up on the injury report last week with a knee injury. The week of rest is much more critical to the team's success than an individual record in Saquon Barkley's rushing title.
I completely agree. Hopefully that little hypothetical exercise that we went through there puts you a little more at ease, not just to what the right decision is, but that the right decision will not have any issues caused the rest of the way for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this seems so simple to me. I'm floored that there is such reaction among the fan base that Saquon should play, right? It's insane to me that there are so many people that seem to have that opinion. The word that we kept using yesterday, short-sighted, was the word you were using to describe it. It's just, I don't see how there's people on the other side of this argument, but I'm not the type of person to say, well, I don't understand why you're there, so we're not going to allow you to make that point of view. Feel free to chime in if you still stand in that camp. We'll just go further and further throughout the week to show you why that is not the smartest move for the Philadelphia Eagles. But again, seems pretty open and shut to me. You can chime in on that conversation, 610-632-0975. Should Nick Sirianni listen.
Hey guys, Andrew Salciunas from Kincade and Salciunas. Thank you for checking out all of our stuff on YouTube. Make sure you click, like, subscribe on everything that you see. And of course, you can see everything from our YouTube feed. Full shows, interviews, when John's being an idiot, which is like 15 times a day. So make sure you check out all of our stuff on YouTube. We appreciate it.